We've got plans.
Okay.
This is very much a fully supported thing. People going, oh, it's just Raiders. I don't care. And blowing raspberries at us. I would say just be patient. Stick around. I mean, who knows? By the time this goes out, there might be some interesting news. Who can say?
Hello there, Wastelanders. Welcome back to War Games News Radio. My name is Ryan, and joining me today is the one, the only, James Hewitt, lead designer of Fallout Factions, the brand new Fallout tabletop game coming from our friends at Modiphius Entertainment. James, welcome. So great to have you on the channel.
Thanks for having me. Always nice to come along and do this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very, very keen to have you in here today because questions abound in our Discord and online and everywhere about Fallout Faction. So we'll dig into it. We'll pick your brain, learn all the secrets, so our fans can get them ahead of time, so they're better than everyone else on the tabletop.
Exactly. Yep.
Obviously,
Official 100%. You heard it here first.
that's obviously why we're here. But the main question might be, for those who don't know, what is Fallout Factions? Give us, kind of the if the elevator pitch, if you will, 30 seconds or less. What
Yeah.
is this game all about?
Great question. So, Fallout Factions is it's a tabletop miniatures game. Okay, we're doing good so far. Which uses the same kind of range of 32 mil plastic and resin figures as Wasteland Warfare. Got a whole bunch of new ones coming out alongside this, but mainly it's a game for two players playing head-to-head competitive games in a kind of more streamlined and just quicker to pick up way than you do with Wasteland Warfare. Wasteland Warfare is like this beautiful toolbox, sandbox where you can do anything. This is very focused, and it's let us really focus the rules on what makes a really fun head-to-head competitive game with lots of decisions, lots of strategy, where the rules kind of fade into the background until you really need them.
Interesting, and it's really interesting to hear specifically the PvP focus, because that is something that's kind of been lacking in that Wasteland Warfare space. But this isn't just sort of like a tournament, sort of head to head, knock down, drag them out. There is like a campaign progression sort of system as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, we're having some cake, we're eating some cake, we're doing it all. Some of that cake's heavily irradiated, but that is the way of things in the
Of
wasteland, right?
course.
Basically, so the core experience is like the closest example is a game like Necromunda by Games Workshop, which I worked on the most recent edition of it. And it's a game where you're playing like competitively head to head, but that doesn't mean it's just kind of one-off games. The idea is you build your crew, you pick a faction, you build a crew, and then you get a sheet of paper, you note down the names and the stats and things, and then between games they can level up, they can get upgrades, their special stats can go up, they can get new perks, they can modify their guns, and you kind of build this whole thing. And of course they can die horribly in a variety of ways. It's Fallout, right?
That's what
But
Raiders do, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then what you have is like between games, you have the story phase, which is where that kind of thing happens. But also you get to like make story action. So you might go, oh, I'm going to go and scout out that location, so I get an advantage in the next game, or I'm going to go and do some trading or heal up, whatever it is. So it gives a little bit of a soupçon of campaign flavor without kind of making it really like too gritty and granular.
Right, interesting, and sort of that dovetails nicely into sort of looking at some of your other work. You mentioned the reboot of Necromunda there.
Yep,
I think you did some Blood Bowl work
I did.
as
Yep,
well. Warhammer Quest, Adeptus
yep.
Titanicus, and then a whole bunch for James Workshop, and then of course off to Mantic and some other stuff. Fallout's an interesting sort of IP, right? It's got a little bit of everything. It's really dense too,
Yeah,
but there is some humor and sort of some interesting levity in the series
absolutely.
as well. How different was it sort of approaching this sort of content, this sort of IP, if you will,
Yeah.
compared to something that's so serious and so grim dark as like the
It's
40K universe?
it's really nice. I mean, I've had the chance to work on quite a few different IPs over the years, both with Games Workshop, you're working on their IPs, and then I've worked on other things. As you say, I did Hellboy with Mantic Games, Devil May Cry with Steamforge was a big one. Worked on the Sea of Thieves board game, um, and yeah, I'm someone who I like a bit of fun in my games, like a bit of levity, and I think what's interesting is even when you get a game with a very serious IP, a very serious tone, that isn't always translated to the table because players are there having fun. It's their recreation time, right?
Right.
And when I'm playing, a really grim game on the tabletop, I'm still having fun. I'm still got cracking jokes and whatever else. And so it's nice to kind of lean into that a little bit and have certain things that bring that into play. So yeah, it's been a joy. I mean, I've been a Fallout fan for years. I didn't play 1 and 2 first time around. I played Fallout 3 to death. I think a lot of people
Yeah, that was
same
my
thing.
introduction
Yeah.
too. Yeah, and then went back and
Um,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And played. I wake up with the pleas of settlers ringing in my ears. Please help. How do we plant carrots?
Yeah.
And yeah, I've played it. So it was so much fun to kind of come to that and be able to bring that to the tabletop.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched as well on sort of the leveling up, the modding of weapons and stuff. I mean, the loot, the scavenging, all of that. I mean, that's quintessential to that
Yeah.
Fallout experience, right? So, maybe you can dig a little into sort of the building
Yeah.
of the list. I mean, do folks get to choose their weapons, their loadout? Is it more stock? How does that go sort of as they develop?
So what happens? So when you first create your crew, you have an initial caps budget of 200 caps, and every
Okay.
every model you have what we call classes of models. So for example, in let's say the disciples, you've got your leader who's called a tormentor. We kind of grabbed various names from the game,
Right.
and the tormentor is your leader. You always have to have one leader, so you've got like 3 or 4 different weapon loadouts to
Okay.
each class. So my tormentor might have, a scoped hunting rifle because I want to kind of be the sneaky, stand back and shoot people from a distance kind of person. I might go 44 and machete if I want to kind of get up close. You got your butchers who are your champions,
Okay.
and they're generally characters who are a little bit more like integral to like your leader and champions tend to be the ones that do the majority of the really cool things. And again, you've got some different loadouts for them with their own costs. And then you get into the people we lovingly refer to as the grunts, who are your kind of psychos, scavers, wasters, and it varies from list to list. But they've, again, got a variety of different options, each with its own cost. And there's a few rules about how many you can have and this kind of thing. But you pick this force. So you're not having to go kind of full granular like Wasteland Warfare and equip every model individually,
Right. Okay.
but also you're not tied to a specific, this is what a pack group looks like, or this is what a disciples crew looks like. You see so many fun builds, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing kind of some of the combos people come up with. And then between games in this story phase, you can recruit new models, so add them to your crew. You can some of them might die, you might have to replace them,
Yeah.
but also you can kind of modify the weapons. One of the things I wanted to do, I mean, I've been playing tabletop games for about 30 years. Oh God, I just realized that's really upsetting.
Just a hot minute. Yeah.
Yeah, and games like Necromunda, that kind of thing, where you have your miniature gets you want to upgrade the gun, but now you've got to kind of take the gun off the miniature you painted and change it over and whatever else. We kind of wanted to reduce that, which is a similar thing I
Okay.
did with the more recent Necromunda, which is like once a model has got that thing, that's its loadout. You don't change weapons, you modify them, because that's Fallout, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
you can tinker with them, and if the players want to kind of go in and add the sights and the things, whatever else, they can do that, but we keep it fairly abstract. The upgrade is, oh, you get +1 to your dice rolls, or whatever it might be. That varies for each gun. I think the rules kind of say the model should have what it has, but we're not going to differentiate between a magnum with a different barrel, for example.
Sure.
There's a
Yeah.
few different variants. The handmade rifle, for example, one of the big things in Nuke World is the handmade rifle, and there are various different variants. I've got a save in Fallout 4 where it's just me stood at a workbench, weapons workbench. When I've cheated. I've put all the resources in, so I
Yeah.
can mod weapons as much as I can. I go in and go, right, what are the 4 variations or 4 variants of this gun that we want in the game? And gone, okay, so now we've got the handmade rifle,
Right.
the light handmade rifle, which is like a stripped down carbine version with a bayonet. We've got the fully automatic, which is one the pack have got.
That's
Just
my
a
personal
real,
favorite. Yep.
it's the one
Yeah.
you can do, real, yeah,
Yeah.
proper like heavy assault rifle kind of
Yeah.
thing. You've got the marksman's handmade rifle, which the operators and the disciples have, like your long range sniper version.
Yep.
But we've kind of gone, those are the 4 kind of builds, and then you can tweak and modify those individually.
Very cool. Yeah.
So it's kind of a middle ground, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, because that is sort of one of the maybe not complaints, but critiques that Fallout Wasteland Warfare does get is it's you kind of get that decision paralysis, right? You've got so many options, so many ways to go that you don't know where to start, which is a strange sort of situation to find yourself in. But it sounds like
Absolutely.
it's been sort of, especially the ease of play and setup has also been sort of a daunting task in Wasteland Warfare. This seems decidedly different. And speaking of setup and new models, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what is in this brand new box, which just went for
Yeah.
pre-order on this Monday.
It's a really, really cool box. One of the big things that the big ethos we had here was make this as easy as possible for a player, two players, whatever, to kind of pick it up and just start playing as soon as possible. Because
Awesome.
I worked in Games Workshop retail stores for a decade, so I've done a lot of kind of helping people take their first steps into the kind of hobby,
Right.
you know, and having that really solid core product with everything you need is so integral. We've got two sprues of models. So you've got 20 models in total, pack and the operators.
Right.
The each sprue has got 10 miniatures, and all of them have got two different builds, apart from the leader who's got three.
Okay.
Um, and then you've got a whole bunch of extra weapons and arms and things that uh, aren't used in factions, but you can use them for Wasteland Warfare.
Sure. Yeah.
So, for example, in the Disciples sprue, you actually get three builds for one of the veterans because you get a missile launcher, which they don't have in factions, but you can have it for if you use them in
Okay.
Wasteland
Yeah.
Warfare. You've also got like various spare pistols, blades, a little bit of scenic base. I think greebles is the term that people
Sure.
use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? So you got a whole bunch of miniatures. They're really cool. Sculpted by Colin Grayson, X Games Workshop sculptor, really good at
Oh,
doing
wow.
modular
Amazing.
plastic kits.
Yeah.
You've got a set of press out cardboard scenery, like a really chunky
Yes.
card that makes like a really nice kind of dry rock gulch setup,
Looks really cool. Yeah.
with a paper gaming mat, which most people will probably replace with a nice board or something. But so again, it's for the new player. You've got that there. It's the right
Yeah.
size. All the games are on a 2 foot by 3 foot area, so you
Which
know
is,
exactly how much space you need.
yeah, it was an interesting sort of long and narrow
Yeah,
almost sort of. Yeah.
it's the reasoning for it is like I don't like it when you play a game on a big table and nothing interesting really happens around the edges. You spend ages setting up this cool table
Yeah.
and everything happens in the middle. So let's focus on that. Keep it a little bit longer so you've got a bit of depth
Right.
and
Yeah.
ranges matter a bit more, but you're not kind of having to squeeze right in, but you're not having to go too big. So you've got your mat, you've got your buildings, which are all they push together. It's all engineered really nicely. You've got your little tiny tape measure, little Nuka-Cola branded
Which
tape
is
measure,
very
which is
very cool.
it's adorable. You got your dice, you've got your tokens, you've got a couple of like dry wipe roster sheets if you want to play like one-off games. You want to just quickly
Oh, very
scribble it
cool.
on there. Yeah, I was surprised by that. It was a late edition. I was like, that's really cool when we got our sample copy in.
Absolutely.
And then the rule book, which is I think 80 pages, and it's a very comprehensive rule book. We wanted to kind of make sure you had everything you need to play the game in that rulebook. So you've got your rules to play, which are broken into basic and advanced. I like doing this in war
Okay.
games. Like
Yeah.
here is the rules for your first game.
Right.
Don't overwhelm yourself. And then here is the complete experience.
Yes.
We also had a couple of optional rules, people that like to go that little bit further and be a bit more immersive.
Okay.
But like you've got the basic experience, the core experience, and the super duper extra bit. And then you've got a bunch of appendices with like scenarios, faction lists, weapon mods, perks. Everything is in there. It's all
Amazing.
in one, the full campaign system.
Right, and so the campaign, if I understand correctly, is it's sort of based around the main DLC of Fallout 4 2 of sort of getting control of the different parts of the park as you go, but of course not limited to that.
Absolutely. So the campaign that's in this box here in this book, and you can take inference from what I've said there, but the campaign that's in this box here in this book is it's about controlling Nuka World. So the way in my head, the way I see it is this is kind of set just before the DLC.
Okay.
When the three raider factions haven't quite got that alliance going yet,
Yep.
but the whole point is that you are playing a bunch of nobodies initially who are trying to fight their way to the top and kind of get a seat at that top table.
Love it.
So you play you play games. The whole point of any campaign system for this kind of thing is to give you a reason to play more games, right? And so what you have is you play games, and when you've played a game, you might gain what we call control in one of the 5 locations in the
Okay.
park. So we've got is it sorry, we don't have Nuketown USA. That's kind of neutral ground. But
Okay.
other than that, it's like Dry Rock Gulch, Safari Kingdom, galactic zone, Kitty Kingdom and World of Refreshment. I did it, amazing. And you measure your control like numerically, so it kind of
Okay.
feels like a bit of a map control campaign.
Yeah, interesting.
But you don't have to like have a set group of players you're playing with. You have your crew, and that's with you, and then you measure your crew's level. So I could play against you. You know, if I come to Canada, we play a game. My crew can do this. I come back over here, play with someone else, and I'm still tracking the thing. All that matters is when we come together, what are our relative levels of control to see
Gotcha.
what kind of advantages we get, or that kind of thing. And then depending on where the game is taking place, and which scenario you're taking as an outcome, you might take some of my control. You might get something else from me. There's all these kind of different things, and the scenario you choose is kind of a key part of your strategy.
Gotcha.
If you're choosing the scenario, you might go, actually, hey, James's crew's been playing longer than me. It's a bit bigger, a bit tougher. I'm going to choose the ambush scenario so I can get the drop on him.
I like what you said about this box, which does lead into. I would not be doing.
I said
my...
nothing. I said nothing at all of the
No,
sort.
I don't know what you mean. I've got the tape. We can roll it back. But so I mean, there has been some chatter, obviously.
Yeah.
The game's called Fallout Factions. So far, we've got a couple.
Yep.
Obviously, not. Guessing you're going to fully blow the lid off here, but there has been chat about what could be coming. There's also been folks talking about, well, I've got these super mutant Fallout Wasteland minis. Could I proxy them for one of these raiders? So a bit of a twofer there. What are the potentials of this game coming down the line to see some of those more iconic Brotherhood of Steel factions show up at some point, and what is the sort of proxability, if you will, to coin a phrase, of Wasteland Warfare coming into this game, if you wanted to be, say, the Railroad or something?
So we've been working on this game for a while now. I've been working on this for about 3 years or so, in little bits and pieces. I mean, I've been doing a lot of other projects as well, but the Modiphius development team as well have been working really hard on a load of stuff, and we've got a lot of like big Fallout fans in the team.
Yes.
And we have got plans. We've got plans.
Okay.
This is very much a fully supported thing. The intention is this is not replacing Wasteland Warfare. I mean, I should have been shouting that every 5 seconds because everyone keeps asking it. This is not replacing Wasteland Warfare, but there's going to be kind of parallel releases. And of course, when something comes out for one game, it can maybe work for the other as well. People that have already got existing collections, I think we'd be kind of crazy if we didn't give people a way of using their existing miniatures. And what I would say to those people who are kind of, I've been looking around the forums and Discords and things, people going, oh, it's just Raiders, I don't care, and blowing raspberries at us. I would say, just be patient, stick around. I mean, who knows? By the time this goes out, there might be some interesting news. Who can say?
Who knows?
But certainly we're like, I want to have a Brotherhood of Steel faction and take on super mutants and things. And yeah, I think that's all good stuff that any Fallout fan will be happy to hopefully one day learn about in the future. Wink, wink.
Fantastic news. It's definitely a question that has been floating around. It is sort of the wave these days, I find, especially you can look back even in the Modiphius history to the second Wasteland Warfare launch. The first question was New Vegas when. It's like, okay, well, can't we just? This is why we can't have nice things.
I think with anything like this, right? When you've got like a universe as big as Fallout, or you've got a whole miniatures range, whatever else, whatever you present, people will want that plus one.
Of course.
If we said we're going to do miniatures for everything from Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, including all the DLC, well, what about Fallout 2? So
Naturally.
we have to give it out, and what we have to ask is that the player base trusts us and is patient and just enjoys things as they come. And we wanted to make a game here that is really aimed at a lot of the hardcore fans, because a lot of people who play Wasteland Warfare, we've got a lot of people who like playing it competitively and doing player versus player stuff. We really want to make sure that they've got the tools here to have that competitive Fallout tabletop gaming experience. And so hopefully there's a lot of things that we're going to do that will work in their favor.
So sort of the dice is very different than what we've seen in Wasteland Warfare or some traditional war games. A lot of D6s tend to be the way to go, but D10. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how the combat comes together, how that feels, and how sort of the roles and how the that Fallout franticness transfers to the tabletop.
this is a thing that we worked on a heck of a lot in the early days on this project, because the core dice mechanic is such a big part of this game. It's like the main mechanic of the game is the way the dice work, and we knew we wanted something which didn't use custom dice, because again, accessibility, new players having to learn how to read a dice is a thing you have to pick up if you want to get into Wasteland Warfare. With this, we wanted to make it like immediately you roll the dice, you can see what the numbers are. We thought about how do we kind of give it that Fallout flavor, how do we do all these things, but also make it streamlined and easy and immediately resolved. So you decide what you're going to do, you pick up the dice based on what it is, you know what you need to roll, you roll it, and immediately you know what's happened. 10-sided dice, and you've got kind of two flavors of dice. You've got your regular dice and your luck dice, which are super lovely special ones. And you build a dice pool. So say, for example, one of my scavers is going to open fire at you with a handmade rifle. So I'm going to roll. Handmade rifle's got a 4p test stat. That means I'm rolling 4 dice, and I'm comparing my results to my model's perception. That's P. So I get my 4 dice, and I go to roll them. Before I do, that model's got a luck value of 2. So I take 2 of those dice and switch them out for luck dice.
Okay.
Now luck dice do 2 things. First of all, when I roll them, any luck dice that hit, each one lets me put a standard dice into the roll. So I roll another standard dice. So that 4 could become a 6, which is pretty cool. Also, if at least one of those does that, I trigger my weapon's critical effect. And this was kind of our sneaky, cheeky way of getting a lot of weapon flavor without doing loads of special rules for weapons.
Right.
So what it means is, like, if I'm firing at you with a handmade rifle, it's got the critical effect suppress, which is if I roll those dice and I get at least one of my luck dice as a hit, you might lose an action. So you're going to make a test to see if you kind of have to duck your head down.
Nice.
And the action economy is really big in the game. Like, making your opponent lose actions is quite a big deal. So, for example, if I shoot, you've got someone with a marksman's handmade rifle. If I suppress you, you can no longer aim. So your shot's going to be less effective. But hey, you might have a chem which counteracts that. And what we have is this whole like ecosystem of really simple rules that work together in a way that opens up lots of decisions, lots of strategy. So it's a simple system, but it does a lot.
I like that a lot, and you're seeing that a little bit more in games these days, being able to sort of have your own agency in your player's turn, to be able to do some subtle tweaks, or even in Wasteland Warfare, reactions, that sort of thing. Being able to play off what your player's doing. I do find that it makes it more of a participatory experience.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not just, okay, I'm going to sit back and watch my army get shot, and now you're going to sit back and watch your army get shot.
I think it works really nicely with that, with the way the action, like the activation system works in around, like, I activate a model, you activate a model, back and forth.
Yeah.
But within that, there's a whole bunch of decisions to make. So, for example, you can generally make 2 actions with a model in a round. That's a very blanket statement. There's lots of things that can screw around with that. But generally, I might decide this model is going to make 1 action now, and I'll save the other one for later, so I can come back and activate it again. Or I'm going to use this model as action, and I'm going to make a get moving action, which lets me move around.
Gotcha.
And in doing so, I'm going to bring some other models with me, because every model has a little control zone around them based on their charisma. And so I can go, well, hey, I'm going to bring 3 friends. So I'm kind of spending 3 of my actions or 4 of my actions all in one go on my turn, meaning I've kind of lost out on the number of actions I've got left to make, but I've done a big move forward. And so there's this it means, like, when you have things like an elite force, like, for example, Brotherhood of Steel, not saying that we've got rules for those, but if we were to, for example, do that, you might find that you've got a small elite force, but because of the way those rules work, you don't end up with one player having loads more actions than the other, because there are different ways of spending them. And it took a long time to get right, but I'm really happy with where it is.
Very excited to get my hands on this box, but the quick start, like you said, is available now on the Modiphius website. What are you hoping that folks who are really eager, what do you want them to get out of this experience that maybe they haven't gotten in not just Wasteland Warfare, but in a tabletop experience?
So I think, the big one for me is it's going to appeal to people who are kind of Fallout fans, who have tried miniatures games with Wasteland Warfare, but it's a bit deep and crunchy for them. They want to kind of have a lighter experience. So that's the first kind of thing that I think is, if you've tried a Fallout miniatures game before and it didn't quite hit the buttons you wanted to, try this. It's a whole different thing. If you've played Wasteland Warfare a whole lot and you really like it, but you want a quicker experience, either to get new friends into it or just go play pick up games at the club, this is for you. If you're a person who's played a lot of war games, I think one of the big things that this does is, yeah, that whole action economy, the way that just the basics of how you activate your force. I don't know any other games that do it exactly like this. I've looked at a lot of different war games, and I think there's something about the way this works and the yeah, it just gives you as a player a lot of like strategic options without overwhelming you. Hopefully, I think.
Hopefully. Well, I'm
Yeah.
I'm personally excited to see what this box brings to the table and all of the other fun stuff that I'm sure you've got hatched or hatching over with our friends at Modiphius. James, thank you so much for taking the time here today. There's a million other questions I could ask you, but I'm sure you've got other places to be, and
Yeah.
as do I, unfortunately.
Maybe
But
we could do a part two sometime, right?
I would absolutely
Yeah.
love that, or maybe we do a virtual game over
Yeah,
Tabletop Simulator
absolutely.
or something one
Yeah.
of these
We'll
days.
make something happen. Let the game come out and then we'll see what we can do. Yeah.
Fantastic. And for those
Awesome.
who want to see how the game plays now, there's a video up on the Modiphius website where yourself and Steve take a lovely round with
Yeah.
some raiders that don't all make it out. I believe there's an exploding bus involved in there
Don't join the
somewhere.
bus. The bus is a bad place. Bad things happen.
Yeah, there you go. Public transit. It's not so great in the Wasteland Warfare world. Well, James, thank you again so much for being here today. We'll let you get back to it, and all the best. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Cheers.